Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is The Surge Effect, and I'm your host, Mike Surge. This podcast will be talking about anything and everything, life in general to current events and past events, and all things about this beautiful and wonderful world that we live in. And this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Surge Effect. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about a few things that's been on Twitter and YouTube just the last week or so, couple of weeks. I like to call these the X-Files. The X-Files. Before we get started, I'd like to talk about two of the sponsors for today's podcast. The first sponsor is Love My Legs Owen Sound Grey Bruce. Click on their link below. Head on over to their Facebook page. Check out all the leggings they have to offer. Second sponsor is He Shirts, She Shirts. Once again, head on over to their webpage and check out all the different clothing they have to offer. They are more than just another t-shirt company. I also like to throw in a couple things before I get started. The things that I use personally, BCAAs. Branch chain amino acids. Good for what ails you. Like I said last podcast, go check them out, see what they have to offer. Click the link below. Go get yourself some BCAAs. Next one I want to talk about is my RODECaster Pro 2, my soundboard that I use. You can use it for all different kinds of things. I use it for my podcasting. It is fantastic. You will really enjoy it. All right, so let's get right at it. First off, we're going to talk about what has transpired, of course, in the last couple of weeks. We had a terrorist and his son that wanted to do a terrorist act in Toronto on Canadian soil. This guy was an ISIS member. This guy actually created heinous acts on a video, and this guy was let into Canada on our soil. And this is what our minister had to say in regards to this little fiasco. Now, keep in mind, everyone, these people need to keep Canadians safe. Canadians, us Canadians, we need to feel safe in our homes, on our land, on our soil, and these guys are responsible for that. So here we go.
I want to know exactly what happened, when, and how. That is something I have ordered my deputy minister to undertake with my department, to look at the timeline at which the individual in question got their permanent residency and citizenship, who knew what, when, and how. I hope to be able to provide answers in a relatively short timeline about what happened. I'm as disgusted as any Canadian, but I have a responsibility to get to the bottom of it, and I will. The information that I can share in the context of criminal proceedings may be limited, but I want to make sure first and foremost that Canadians are safe and that we do not compromise an ongoing court case. But again, I think Canadians deserve answers. I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I'm also going to take the next step, which is to start the preliminary work with the evidence at hand to look at whether the individual in question's citizenship should be revoked.
Whether their citizenship should be revoked? Well, what do you think? Do you think maybe their citizenship should be revoked? Like, let's get serious, folks. This guy comes into Canada. He's an ISIS terrorist, and he says it's his responsibility. Of course, it's his responsibility. One of his responsibilities is to keep Canadians safe. And it's like if you're in the military, and say you're in Afghanistan or Iraq, and your job is to watch the West Wall. Make sure that no enemies come in the West Wall. And for some freakish reason, you fall asleep or whatever, enemies come in the West Wall, kill a bunch of your people. What happens to you? You get demoted? You get promoted? You get fired? You get court-martialed? These people are living in a dream world, man. You know, they need to be held accountable and held responsible for this. Here's what a reporter that asked Pierre Poilievre a question the other day. Hear what he had to say.
My question is to do with a terror attack plotted in Toronto. And one of the two men charged with plotting the terror attack in Toronto, he came to Canada from abroad and became a citizen after he's alleged to have appeared in an ISIS video dismembering a prisoner of ISIS. Would you dedicate more resources to security screening in the immigration and citizenship system?
Yes. Justin Trudeau spends our resources trying to ban plastic straws and hunting rifles, while he opens our borders up to potential terrorists and other security risks. We have, in this case, an alleged ISIS terrorist who seems to have appeared in a video mutilating another human being, cutting another human being to pieces on a crucifix in the Middle East, and then this person who allegedly did this act was granted access to this country and has been newly charged with another alleged terrorist offense on our soil. Justin Trudeau is not worth the risk and the danger. His radical, reckless policies are putting Canadian lives at risk. A Poilievre-led, common-sense Conservative government will secure our borders to keep the terrorists out and keep our nation strong and free.
See, do you notice like a mirror image of what's going on in the States as well as Canada? The United States, of course, have had millions of people flood their borders, flood them. And they've created heinous acts to the citizens of that country. Once again, someone needs to be held accountable. Who's going to be held accountable? Somebody needs to be fired. Someone needs to lose their job. Someone's not doing their job, so they have to go. It's that simple. I mean, what happens if these guys would have finished off their terrorist act? Yeah, they said they're citizens. Well, they were immigrants and they became citizens, and then they were going to, what, kill Canadian citizens? No, sir. They need to go back home where they came from. They should have come here, assimilate into our way of life, into our culture, take on our life and our flag. Our flag. But they don't. So here's what...
My question...
I shouldn't say that... that everyone is like that. Obviously, they are not. But this is what Trudeau... This is how he feels about
Are you seriously saying
immigration. And this happened when him and Harper was speaking a few years back. So listen to this.
seriously saying, Mr. Trudeau, will you never be able to revoke citizenship from somebody?
No.
Is that your position?
No.
Because we revoked the citizenship already of war criminals. And why would we not revoke the citizenship of people convicted of terrorist offenses against this country? This was a bill put forward. This was a bill put forward by a member of Parliament.
You hear the people clapping in the back? Yes, because they understand. They know that what Harper's saying is a fact. This is what the majority of Canadians believe in. But a small group of people in politics, for some reason, they don't. I don't get it.
Who is himself an immigrant. Is that your position?
No.
Because we revoked the citizenship already of war criminals. And why would we not revoke the citizenship of people convicted of terrorist offenses against this country? This was a bill put forward. This was a bill put forward by a member of Parliament who is himself an immigrant, Devinder Shori. This is not the standards we expect. Immigrants, Canadians, all of us who are here expect that we would have a minimum bar, that people would not, people who come here would not be guilty of trying to plan terrorist attacks against this country.
A Canadian is a Canadian, and you devalue the citizenship of every Canadian in this place and in this country when you break down and make it conditional for anyone. We have the rule of law in this country, and you can't take away citizenship if you don't like what someone does. You can't do that.
So Trudeau just said, you can't take away what someone does. Can't take away the citizenship because of something that they did. Terrorists. See, the terrorists, they weren't on our soil. Then they came to our soil, became a citizen, and then they were going to commit a terrorist act and kill, who knows, how many people, Who knows what the terrorist act was even going to be? We haven't heard what that's going to be yet, because no one's come forward to tell the rest of the Canadians what it was all about. So that to me is negligence. Negligence. Okay, so let's move on to a different video here. This is Pierre Poilievre talking about bringing it home and talking about jobs and talking to people after he asked us, answered this question about the terrorist.
He's giving out rebates for people to buy Chinese-made cars. So let's get this straight. Justin Trudeau and sellout Singh want to give taxpayer-funded subsidies for buying Chinese-made cars while they impose tax penalties on the manufacturing of Canadian-made cars. No wonder hundreds of billions of dollars have left our country and are creating jobs in other countries.
It is just mind-boggling that this is even occurring. Is this supporting our own people? Is this supporting our own Canadian citizens for jobs and for manufacturing? Is this supporting Canada? See, that's all I've always said in my podcast before. If your life isn't better, then you need to let these people go. Let them know, let them go, little check, and vote them out of office. They have to make your life better, not worse. Is giving subsidies for cars from China making your life better here in Canada? No. Why don't they do that here in Canada? It's so simple. Let's hear what Michael Cooper has to say about, they're calling him Sellout Singh. I'm not going to play all of this because this is about 4 minutes and change, but I will play a little bit. This gentleman's name's Michael Cooper. This guy is awesome. He's an awesome member of Parliament. He does a fantastic job, and this is what he says.
NDP led by Sellout Singh have once again sold out Canadian taxpayers while doing the bidding of Justin Trudeau's corrupt Liberal government. Let me explain. It begins with the report of the Ethics Commissioner. The Ethics Commissioner found that the Trudeau-appointed chair of the $1 billion Green Slush Fund, Annette Verschaeren, is guilty of breaking Canada's ethics laws. Verschaeren, as chair, voted to funnel nearly $220,000 taxpayer dollars from the Green Slush Fund to her own company. She abused her position as a public office holder to enrich herself. She padded her pocket by ripping off the taxpayer. As damning as the Ethics Commissioner's report is, it only scratches the surface of corruption at the Green Slush Fund by Liberal insiders, including Verschaeren. While the Ethics Commissioner was writing his report, Canada's Auditor General released a bombshell report exposing massive corruption by Liberal insiders at the Green Slush Fund, including Verschaeren. The Auditor General found that Verschaeren, in addition to funneling $220,000 taxpayer dollars to her company, on 20 additional occasions voted to funnel money from the fund to her own companies. 20 additional conflicts of interest. She funneled an additional $2.6 million taxpayer dollars to her own companies, according to the Auditor General. So, given the Ethics Commissioner's findings and the report of the Auditor General, Conservatives forced an emergency meeting of the Industry Committee. We put forward at the meeting a motion to hold summer hearings, to call in the Ethics Commissioner so that he could explain his guilty verdict with respect to Verschaeren, but also to hear from Verschaeren. After all, she has a lot of explaining to do, not only in terms of the guilty verdict of her by the Ethics Commissioner, but also to answer for the 20 additional conflicts of interest, the additional $2.6 million taxpayer dollars that she funneled to her companies. And based upon the Auditor General's report, it appears that the Ethics Commissioner might have quite a bit more work to do to investigate Verschaeren and other Liberal insiders at the Green.
Do you understand about how these people love to take taxpayers' money, Canadians' money? It's ridiculous. So let's go to the another little YouTube clip. This is the CBC taking money for bonuses. It's quite an interesting little listen. Have a listen to this one.
I'm going to presume no bonuses this year. I mean, the Canadian Taxpayer Federation said a Freedom of Information request showed 16 million were paid in bonuses in 2022. Can we establish that that is not happening this year?
It's too early to say where we are for this year. We'll be looking at that like we do all our line items in the coming months.
So there's a chance bonuses could still happen at a time when jobs are being cut?
I'm not going to comment on something that hasn't been discussed at this point. So,
will you be giving bonuses to executives?
Money from taxpayers for years. It is unbelievable. And that's not just the only thing that's happened with the Liberals. They don't want to have certain things on committee. They don't want the Canadian citizens to see what's going on. And the scandals that are going on are ridiculous. So here's a little clip about scandals as well. And you may or may not have heard this stuff on mainstream media. I would say that you probably have not, but let's play.
Because, stuff happens.
Between 2011 and 2023, Hogan's audit found 97 contracts awarded to McKinsey & Company, worth more than $200 million, most handed out in a non-competitive process.
Stuff happens.
Justin Trudeau says he accepts the report that says he broke the law. How can the Prime Minister of Canada breaking the law be in the public interest?
Stuff happens.
Prime Minister now says he shouldn't have been involved in cabinet conversations about granting WE a nearly $1 billion contract.
I made a mistake.
Stuff happens.
You were going to take a free holiday from someone you consider a friend. How could it not have occurred to you that that might not have been okay?
Stuff happens.
Let me be clear in saying once again that I made a mistake.
Stuff happens.
Another Liberal, another apology.
I am very sorry.
The latest from Quebec MP Greg Fergus, found to have violated the Conflict of Interest Act.
Stuff happens.
He has $1 billion fund whose own bureaucrats say reminds them of the sponsorship scandal, whose executives give money to their own companies.
Stuff happens.
Of course stuff happens, but it seems to happen to them quite a lot. And it's our tax dollars that stuff's happening to. And of course the tax dollars gets whisked away too for the carbon tax that we all have. So here's kind of a cute little thing that Garnet Genuous says in our house, and you may or may not have heard this, but I'll play this for you. It's kind of cute.
Madam Speaker, farmers do not like their carbon tax plan. They do not like their pipeline ban. They do not like it here or there. They do not think it's just or fair. It taxes the food the farmer grows. It taxes the tractor when he mows. It taxes the food as it gets trucked. It taxes the people as they get squeezed. Liberal policies are breaking our backs. So when will they finally axe the tax?
This guy is top notch as well. Garnet Genuous, Michael Cooper, Michael Barrett, and Larry Brock. Just amazing, amazing MPs that are doing the right thing, in my opinion, for Canadians, looking after our money and holding the Liberals to account. And that's the problem. There's no accountability. You just heard that the Miller, the immigration minister, says, you know, where's the accountability to Canadians? Gee, I'm looking into it. I'll give you some answers. This guy shouldn't have come in the first place to immigrate to Canada. Unbelievable. Okay, so now we're going to flip over to some Twitter files. This one here was posted, and this was Justin Trudeau in 2019. 14 years of deceit, division, destruction. This is how you will be remembered. Somebody posted this, and I want to play it for you. Here we go.
Politicians get a bad name because we tend to spend more time trying to divide people. Look for the headline, look for the scandal, attack here, separate people into subgroups there, look for electoral advantage, look for that soundbite, that easy answer that'll reassure people and move forward.
Don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
Of the politics of division, of identity, of wedge, of attack, cynicism, of playing up people's fears and insecurities.
Which is part of why we're going to make sure that people who choose not to get vaccinated don't get to get on a plane or a train, don't get to work in the public service, don't get by working with the provinces on vaccine certifications and mandates, don't get to go to movie theaters or gyms or restaurants and other non-essential services.
We have a government right now that spends its time bracing us for the worst of ourselves, protecting us from the very worst that could possibly happen, scaring us into obeisance, into following. The Liberal Party believes in building for the best in all of us.
Isn't that something? It's amazing how he talks about divisiveness and all that stuff back in 2010, and he actually did that to us. And it's a little discerning, if you ask me. So here's another little clip here. This is what happened in Toronto. So this was posted by Concerned Canadian. I follow these guys on Twitter. It's difficult to rationalize why and how once iconic values and beliefs they have morphed. This was in Toronto just the other day. I know that they're going on about what's going on in Gaza and stuff like that. I get that, but I don't see any Canadian flags there. But what's happening with this, with DIE and the diversity and what's happening with immigration in Canada is that you start having individuals that from their own countries that they came from that didn't like each other. All of a sudden now they're on our land and they don't like each other. And you kind of go, oh, come on, that doesn't already seems right. Well, I also follow the pleb as well, and the pleb just posted this, and I responded to it the other day. But this has actually happened in Brampton. All right, so that goes on for a little over a minute, and that was the Hindus and the Sikhs that were fighting each other in a parking lot. Not sure where the police were, not sure where the law was, but that seems a little wild to me. Not sure what you're thinking, but hey, let me know what you think of in the comments. Just post it and give me your thoughts. Here's another one from Concerned Canadians. So this is, again, transpiring in Toronto. There are over 100 mosques in Toronto. I know people may or may not know that. And yet they believe that they can just go to the streets for prayer and block the streets. And this is what happened the other day. Like I understand the whole religious thing, but why are they doing it on the streets and blocking traffic? Why don't they just go to their mosque where it is? They should go there. I don't know. It'd make a lot more sense to do that than to block traffic. Somebody's heading home from work or somebody's trying to get somewhere and everything's all blocked up because they decide to pray. Well, they can go pray at their mosque because there's over 100 of them in Toronto. Now, I'm just going to show you this one last image. There's one last image I'm going to show you. I've talked about it in the past when we had the COVID vaccine and all that stuff, and some people think, oh, it was just a trial run for something's going to happen in the future. But I've heard rumblings, and I don't know if anyone else has heard rumblings, but in social media and around the world, this was literally just posted yesterday, and I follow Theo Fury as well on Twitter. But anyway, this was just posted yesterday. And it says, WHO orders, which is the World Health Organization, orders governments to prepare for a mega lockdown due to deadly monkeypox strain. Now that guy there is the head of WHO, and of course, a while back they wanted a bunch of countries to jump on board with them and signed an agreement. And that agreement was to let WHO be in control. So the World Health Organization would be in control of countries, not the people you vote in and put in charge are our elected officials. No, this guy and the WHO. A lot of people don't realize that either. But anyway, I'm not sure if you knew about that or not. But that, in fact, came down the pike, and that was in the papers yesterday. This is August 16th today. That came down the pike yesterday, which was August 15th. Anyway, listen, that was the XY files today. I just covered a few things really fast. Let me know what you think of in the comments below. And you may or may not agree with a lot of the things that I was just sharing. But I believe, I've said before, it's my opinion that when immigration's great. I mean, immigration's good. It's good for all countries. Legal immigration, obviously, and immigration where people are vetted properly. But when people come from other countries, they take on this country. My in-laws came from Britain. They were Liverpudlians, but they loved Canada. This was their home. They came from there, but this was their home. They came back in the 50s. They came to Canada. Loved this country. Loved it. My grandfather was a Bernardo boy, and both my grandfathers were, and they came from England. And my one grandfather fought in World War I. He was in Vimy Ridge and Passchendaele, and he loved Canada. Loved it so much that he volunteered, went to war for it. That is what I'm talking about. That intestinal, guttural instinct to love this country. That's what immigration should be. All right, so with that being said, everyone, listen, before I sign off, I just want to tell everyone, like I always do, people always have a story, man. People have a story, and there's always something going on in everyone's lives. Life is difficult. It's hard. It's how you pick yourself up and keep moving forward. You got to keep moving forward. That's the key. Anyway, listen, that's the end of today's podcast. I hope you've been enlightened somehow with a little bit of what I've explained to you. And until next podcast, everyone, have yourself a great day. Cheers. This episode sponsored by He Shirts, She Shirts. Go to www.heshirtssheshirts.ca. Just type in the letters TSA, the surge effect. When you check out, type in TSA for your coupon and receive 10% off your next purchase. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, everybody.